Hi, this is a tutorial on double pointed needles. So let me tell you a little bit about double pointed needles and what I'm doing before we get started. This is a hat that I am making, and the pattern, it's a beanie hat, so it's not slouchy. It is the Light and Lacy Spring Hat by Rachel Goff. There's the pattern. And it is a free pattern available on Ravelry, so check it out. It was a lot of fun. It's only a 4-row repeat, so it's very easy. And I started this using circular needles. These are 16-inch from point to point. These are size 8 because this is Ella Rae Cozy Alpaca, so it is a worsted weight. I've used the circular needles up until I've got to the crown, which is the top part of the head. But now it's getting too tiny to continue using this. So at this point, I'm transferring to double pointed needles. So I thought it'd be fun to show you guys how to do it. Now, double pointed needles can be a little bit intimidating. They can be a little fiddly, but once you catch on, they're not that hard. Now, double-pointed needles are the original knitting needles. They were the very first type because knitting was originally done in the round. It was always circular. It wasn't till a few hundred years later that they started knitting flat. So this is the original knitting needles. Double-pointed needles come in packs of 4 or 5. This pack that I'm using has 5. You always have one needle free, and the other 4 are spread out among the work. The double points are because you can knit from either side. So if you're knitting I-cord, these are great because you knit on one side and slide and can do a tiny, almost like a magic loop using the small circular needle or the double pointed needles. Double pointed needles come in, I think these are 5-inch ones. I have some that are 7 or 8 inches. And I don't know what the oldest originals came in, but that's the size that I have. And I got a whole bunch of these packs of different size double pointed needles from eBay about a year ago. These are bamboo, and I think I got like 8 different pair, and it was under $5. So it was very, very reasonable. Wooden needles are not my favorite. I prefer the metal needles. But for using double pointed needles, they do have a little bit of grab, so they don't slide as easy. So in some ways, it's helpful. Now, here's the brim or the crown of my hat, and you can see how I've got the needles spread out. I have 28 stitches all the way around. So the first thing you would do would be to transfer the stitches evenly. So I have 7 on each of the needles all the way around. Here's my beginning point, and I'm going to move the camera in a minute so that you're looking down on what I'm doing, but I wanted you to be able to see where we were starting. So let me get the camera reset up and I will show you how to do this. All right, here we are at the beginning. Here is my yarn, and you can see it is on this set of needles here. You can see it coming off right here. So the next set is this one that I'm going to work with. Of the 5 needles, I will always have one that is empty. Now when I'm moving from one needle to the next, where I'm going to be transferring the stitches, I'm going to be transferring the stitches from this needle actually onto this one because I'm going to be knitting and they're going to get transferred, and then this needle will become the empty needle. You do want to make sure you pull this first stitch between here very snugly, or you'll have what is called ladders, which are just open strands or gaps between the stitches, and you don't want that to happen. So this row that I'm working on right now is a purl knit together all the way around. So I'm going into my first stitch, and it is a purl. So there it is here. My yarn is in the front, and I'm going to purl. It's coming off of the needle on the left and going onto my empty needle. And this is the stitch you want to really make sure that it's snug so that, again, it's not going to create a gap between here. So it's purl, and then the next stitch is a knit together, so I'm going to move this yarn to the back. I'm going to knit 2 together, and then I'm going to purl, knit 2 together, and purl. Those stitches are now on the empty needle, and the needle that I took the stitches off of now becomes the empty needle. So now I will turn my work and move to the next set of needles. So I ended on a purl here. So I'm going to move the yarn to the back. I'm going to knit 2 together. Like I said, it can be a little fiddly because you've got all these excess needles to work with, but it makes sense once you get started. So here's that first stitch that I really want to make sure is snugged tight. Then the next one is a purl, so I'm moving the yarn to the front. And purl. And knit 2 together. And purl. And now that needle is full and this needle is empty. So now I will turn it again. And I finished with a purl, so my first one is going to be a knit 2 together. So here's my yarn from my last needle, and I'm going to bring it to the back. Knit 2 together. And purl. And knit 2 together. You can keep pushing these other needles to the back just to get them out of the way. And purl. And knit 2 together. This is now my empty needle, and I'm going to turn it one last time because I have one more needle to go across to get back to where I started from. And I ended on a knit 2 together, so this one's going to be a purl. So the yarn is moving to the front. And then knit 2 together. And purl. And knit 2 together. And purl. I've gone all the way around now, and I've gone from 28 stitches to 19 stitches. So I'm going to continue doing this, and when I get close to the top, I will show this again. And now I'm at the narrowest part of the hat where it is actually tied off and gathered at the top. So you can see how tiny it's gone down to just 12 stitches. And I will just run a yarn through these and tighten them up, and that will be the top of the hat. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on double pointed needles and how to knit with them. If you've enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and make sure you watch my regular podcast on Saturdays. Thanks so much for watching.